Hello there, everybody, and welcome to another special episode of the Horror Hangout where we talk about the best and worst the horror genre has to offer, and increasingly have a lovely little sit down with some people bringing you new horrors to your screens, be they big, be they small. I am here today with Eliza Power and Phil Clyde-Smith, the creators, the writers, the directors. We'll talk about all the jobs and hats they've worn of a new horror short that screened at Fright Fest Glasgow a couple of weeks ago. A hand to hold. Hello, both. How are you?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, good.
When you said that intro, when you said the worst and the best, I was like, uh-oh.
That's what
Where
I
are
was
we?
thinking. Well, I thought, oh, which list are we on? Uh-oh.
We will not be defining that. That is for unless you want to come and say we're the worst. Nah, I'm taking it that
Well, I'd
everyone
rather
is
be
the
the
best.
worst or the best rather than just all right. You
Yeah, you
can't be
don't want to
all
be
Oh
right.
middle of the
dear.
road. No.
Nah, nah. And also, I think horror is the one genre as well
Yeah.
where some of my favorite films, I'm pretty sure at least one of my letterbox top four to this day is objectively a two-star movie.
Yeah, I think same.
But
Which one's yours?
I will defend Sleepaway Camp until the day I die.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Don't Google anything, Phil. Going cold, my friend.
no,
I will go and
don't.
come.
Please don't. You
I'm
don't
looking
want to,
forward to
miss that ending at all.
Yeah, what a time. Well, we know we're not talking about one of the worst horror films today because you were very kind and sent me a screener of this. I was very glad to see it because I couldn't be in Glasgow myself for the screening. Um, but I liked it very much. Did either of you make it to Glasgow for the screening?
Yeah, I did. I Eliza couldn't make it, unfortunately. Well, we like to go separately.
Yeah, we'd hate each other, so we can't
Yeah,
travel
we hate
together.
it. We
You've
don't
got to
actually
split the
like each other.
party with high value folks like yourself. What if there was an accident? You've got to make
Yeah,
sure that the
exactly.
legacy
Exactly.
continues.
Yeah, yeah. And so I went with the producer Greg, and it was mind blowing. I mean, I think you've met the guys from the Trek. They were playing there as well.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they're really cool. Actually, I listened to the podcast with them on it, so
Thank
it was
you.
yeah, the it was good. Yeah, and it was amazing. I mean, horror fans are. That's the first time we've been to a horror festival rather than just a normal festival, and it was just it's a different type of crowd, and it is the best buzz in the world when that crowd get behind you because it's real and it means something to the crowd. And it was nerve-wracking, but after about 2 minutes when there was a reaction, a good reaction, and no one walked out, I could relax. So it was really special to me, man. It was good. It was really good.
And that's when you know you've made it, right? So,
Well, yeah. Well, we're nearly
Eliza, how
we
did you
did, we did
feel?
something right. We did something right, I think.
Yeah, I
So,
didn't get to go. I was gutted, absolutely gutted. But I kept getting updates from Phil and Greg. So I was like, oh my God. But as soon as I heard the reaction, I was even more gutted I wasn't in the room.
yeah,
So,
could have
But we
stormed
were
in.
we,
yeah,
yeah, we did go to
blown
San
in.
we were just at Santa Barbara we played at, which and it wasn't in the horror selection, it was actually in the comedy selection,
Yeah,
which was quite, it was a strange, it went down well, but it's strange because some people were, expecting pure comedy rather than a lot of blood and guts. So
yeah.
it just
I think a few people were shocked because I think they like sort of more tame comedy. So I think a few people
yeah.
were slightly horrified, but still amazing reaction at Santa Barbara too.
I imagine in the comedy only section, they're expecting the amount of volume of liquids that we see in a hand to hold, but maybe just sort of custard pie, I guess, rather than
Yeah,
that's
Rather than
comedy
blood.
still, right? Yeah, rather
Yeah,
than
blood
blood.
and body parts
Yeah.
flying around.
I mean, let's give the people a little bit of a delayed gratification. I'm not going to go into the film itself just yet. Let's talk about the two of you for a moment. Obviously, filmmakers. This is a short film that came out in festivals this year. But where did it begin for you? Where did the horror genre really start for you as fans or as filmmakers? Where did it all go wrong? Eliza, I'll ask you first.
It probably all went wrong from about the age of 5 when I started watching like Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee Hammer horror films, and I thought, oh my God, I want to do that. I didn't even understand it. I just thought I want to be involved in that. And then my parents used to let me watch so much horror. My dad was a huge horror fan, but I'd never be allowed to watch this kind of like the torture, what would you call it? Like the torture porn kind of horror stuff.
Mhm.
It was always slightly tongue in cheek. So I kind of grew up watching Fright Night, the original one, with Chris Sarandon and Roddy McDowall, and The Lost Boys, Near Dark, a lot of vampire stuff, a lot of things that use prosthetics like Society, crazy stuff, very, very wacky ideas. Waxwork, I don't know if you ever saw that.
Waxwork,
Yeah.
my goodness.
That is one of the worst, but yet one of my favorite horror films. I mean, I love it. I just like anything that's slightly sort of finding the dark comedy underneath it all. I mean, I do like the dark horror too, but I knew that if I was ever going to get into horror in any way, there'd have to be a slight dark comedy element to it, even in the most serious story. And so that's kind of where horror came from for me, and I always wanted to be involved in it, but I never actually wrote it. When I started writing, I don't know how I ended up in it, but I ended up in like the drama and comedy TV kind of route. But thanks to this one, found my way back to horror.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
back.
It's
How,
back.
how about you, Phil? Where did it all begin?
Well, especially, I work in TV commercials and things, but like for me, I did a lot of shorts that sort of moved more into the dark comedy area, and then it was a natural, and then I was looking actually for a contained feature script, just make, because I just wanted to get on and make a feature, and I emailed Eliza because we worked on something else, and I went, do you have anything that's contained as a feature? She went, well, I do, but I have this short that's won an award as a script, and I have no, it's not been made. And I read it and I went, yeah, let's just do it. We'll do that in a weekend. It'll be easy. And it was, it was
Famous
like,
last words.
yeah, yeah. But then we started getting going on it. Before we know it, we're too committed. We were like, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. But it was, for me, the humor was the big key, and I think horror really for me works really well when it's uses I know it sounds corny, but like a metaphor for something, like you're trying to say, use it as a tool to tell a story, and then it's the absurdity of life because I think life is absurd, and the story really related to me personally because I've seen it. I'm 46. I'm seeing my parents getting older, and I had an auntie who had. I say auntie strangely because I'm from Jersey. Is it say? Do I say auntie strange? Someone told me the other day. I said
Well,
auntie
now you
strange.
pointed it out, I'll never be able to hear it differently. I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
so sorry.
Anyway, I digress. She lost her husband, and he was very ill, and I could see, and she was caring for him, and I could see the toll that was taken on her. Then when he died, she was like a new person. But imagine he came back to life, and then that's why this story, which is basically the story, really. I mean, that horror really, it's the horror is there for a reason, and the emotional story is the real truth in it, and I think the strong, that it had a real heart, and I think that's key. If that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
I mean, I mean, you've touched on one of the big themes there as well. I think it's certainly something not only in this country but globally, but maybe even more so in this country because I know in lots of in lots of places in Asia, I think they are more accustomed to the way that the family works, living with elderly relatives, and it's more engaged. But in certainly in Western Europe, in the Americas, where tends to be more focused on sociology degree coming out here, the nuclear family, looking at people who, you're just a couple, particularly when you're empty nesters and your family have left home, those couples can be incredibly like insular in some cases. And having that, as more people, the cost of social care and so on, looking at what caring for effectively a dying relative in the home looks like, and that the weight it puts on your life is a huge part. Is that something that really played on your
Well,
mind
I
when
mean,
you were
it's the
writing?
horror. That's to me, that's
Yeah,
horror, right? Like
yeah,
I've seen it, like not to get too personal because my family might be listening to this, but you see it in if you have to, you have it's just the oppression someone can put on you if you're having to care for them, and that it is becomes all encompassing and almost like it's a toxic thing that spreads out. It's like one thing that spreads out and holds everyone down. And I've seen it in my family. I've seen it, and it's ended recently. But like, it is horror, and I think that's why our horror works because the horror is used to tell that visualize that control.
Mm.
And yeah, it's something that I think, especially in our age group, when your parents are getting older and you can see that control and it's toxicity. I don't know what you think, Eliza, on those
Yeah,
lines.
I mean, love can easily turn into resentment overnight when somebody becomes a carer. You could maybe have a very happy relationship. I would say this relationship, the subtext is it hasn't always been happy. But I'd say, it can just turn overnight into something toxic. And I think that's something, certainly, I lost my dad and very happily married parents, but it was difficult, watching somebody gradually get older and more incapable of caring for themselves and things like that. It's horrible. And I'm seeing friends go through it now as well. And it is something that unfortunately works very well in the horror genre.
But
Yeah.
it's that contrast of relief, isn't it? You suddenly think you're free. That must feel amazing. It's like ending a really awful relationship. You know, everyone's been there, and you're like, well, that's over.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. Are you allowed to swear?
You certainly are.
Yeah, okay. Thank fuck, that's over. And then, and then suddenly they come back, and you wake up one morning, they're there again. You're like, what?
Oh, I got rid of it.
That is seriously frightening. I've had nightmares about that. That is like it. Yeah, that scares me. Sorry, but yeah, it's real. It's real deep, and I think that's universal globally. And even I think what we've seen, and you're right, we have mainly played in Western countries, so culturally maybe we are more repressive about it, and we don't talk about it, and we don't deal with. Where in other cultures it'd be interesting actually to see how it does play in other cultures.
I mean, I think
Um,
in Ireland, though, I mean, my family are Irish, both my parents Irish, and so I've got every single relative is either in Ireland or moved over to the UK. And I do think there is still that slight element of, kids, living with parents till, and
Right.
having families within homes and stuff, grandchildren and kids and parents. I think that is still there a bit, but also I think in areas like where we filmed this, which is an isolated rural part of Ireland, you're always going to have younger people who might want to escape there and go to the city. So I think that's why it works in this case.
On that front, then let's actually dive into the bit of the plot. We've alluded to it. We've given everyone the clue. So if any detectives are listening, you maybe have worked this out now. But the synopsis, the plot of A Hand to Hold, is an elderly couple living together when the husband passes away in the night, but he maintains a rather firm grip on his wife's hand, which he's not really willing to let go. And we have other members of the community, the doctor, some other folks that come along to lend a hand, all have advice about how she can break free. Um, and maybe I'll leave it there. I don't want to spoil what's
no, it's
coming.
good. I think you should pitch you. That's a great. You did the elevator pitch for us. I've
Pitch
never
the
been able to.
feature for us.
Yeah.
We'll take you round to the
Oh,
producers. You can pitch it.
absolutely. Happy to. So
Brilliant.
yeah, that's where we begin. That's the story, and this is short. And then, as you just alluded to, this is a film that you're both looking to develop into a full feature, right?
Yeah, well, I'm working on the script at the minute, but I think the idea is when Phil and I started talking about it, obviously I had this just crazy short horror in my head, but the themes, which don't think I even really understood how much I'd sort of put in the subtext of it till I talked to Phil about it. But there's so much I think that's relatable in relationships that people can recognize, and the fact that a society thing is that a lot of the time when there is domestic issues, there's things going on between a couple, sometimes people just very, very openly ignore it and openly ignore the danger signs and the warning signs. So we definitely had a little bit of a play with that in this short. And I think that's definitely something that can be explored even further in a more long form, yeah, feature.
I can't wait to see where you go with this. Of course, we'll keep everyone posted on the news as it goes, but for now, let's focus on the short itself and its creation. So it's set in Ireland, I take it, given not it doesn't just happen to be. Oh, and it's set in Birmingham. Everyone just happens to be Irish.
Yeah, definitely not in
We could
Birmingham.
go. We could go with that. It's set in
Maybe we should
Birmingham.
do that actually. That might be more fun. No, definitely set in rural Ireland. So sort of I've got because my family are mostly from the west of Ireland. So in my head it was always somewhere like Kerry centered.
Yeah, and like you say, I think it does really give that vibe because of well, certainly the perception that what you'll have is the more family centric way that in those rural areas around that people still seem to maintain good. But it does create quite this oppressive environment, and it's also written as you say, with a great deal of humor there. I loved the sort of very flippant dialogue that we have in there. The the facial expressions as this doctor's coming in there with his ideas as well. Really, really enjoyed it. So difficult for us not to talk about some of the great reveals that we have here in a short film. So I don't want to spoil anything. But let's just say, as things progress, some of their ideas to resolve the situation have some fairly gory results. What was that like bringing to life on screen from where it was on the page?
Well, I mean, Eliza made it very difficult in her writing, you know, with
I
all
did.
these
Nightmare.
As is your
limbs
right.
being, yeah, chopped
Thank
off and
you.
blood and guts and like, so you're like, so you basically you hide as much as you can and suggest. So we were like, well, we could saw through. I mean, I'm going to say it because it's hard to explain without saying it, but like an arm gets sawn off, and it's like we could show it, like do that for real, not with a real arm,
I
obviously.
was about to say,
But we,
what? What was this man I didn't know
no,
about?
I tell you what, it'd be easier. He's got,
If Murray MacArthur would have been up for that, I mean,
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
he would have
yeah.
done that, but bless him.
Um, but
Stand.
yeah, so you suggest, so it's all in the edit. It's like, and then less, and actually, I think with these kind of things, the more you let the audience imagine, the stronger it can come across, especially when you don't have the budget to do it properly. It's like you imply, I mean, you know, in the edits, quick edit, you imply the comedy is getting up to what they're about to do. It's not actually about what they're doing. It's the absurdity of this guy turning up, about to do what he's going to do. That's the important bit, not the actual chopping of the arm. So you just want to get the arm chopped and move on. You don't want to linger on it because if you especially if you linger, you can see all the you can see all the cracks. But I think that was the main thing. And I think we in the shooting, our actor Frances Barber, she's amazing actor, but I said, right, what we're gonna do, we're gonna throw a load of blood in your face. So that's the arm being chopped. And so the first time we got quite a young guy to do it. He was very nervous because of she's like he has quite a prominent, she's quite what's the word? I don't know.
Olivier nominee
Yeah,
actress.
yeah. So
Good stuff.
she's got there's like you don't want to mess with her, um, and so you got it wrong. It went all up her aisles. Something happened, and I like that didn't work. It didn't turn, we couldn't see it on camera, and I said we're gonna have to do it again, but I'm gonna do it. So if I get it wrong, then I can just get screamed at, and we did it, and then it did kind of work. But I want to do another one. And she refused to do another one. But it's like you do have one that kind of stuff. And there's another big blood scene later on you've got one go at it, especially on our budget. I mean, that's the nerve-wracking bit. And all you can do is prep. So we did prep throwing the blood in the face, but obviously people get nerves on set and you got one go and we've got two cameras, you've got to get it right. It's not the technical side, it's more the actors and they're doing, it's a really difficult balance. And then the very big scene at the end was actually a mistake, but it turned out amazingly. I actually thought I screwed it up because I threw some of the blood
You were
and
quite
I knocked.
upset, actually. You
Yeah, I
thought,
knocked the
oh,
camera. Yeah, because all I saw was it was a high speed camera, so it's shooting 1,000 frames a second, and I was throwing a bucket of blood, and I hit the camera, and it turned the bucket, and I thought, well, I screwed that up. The whole camera moved, and then, but luckily, because it's such high frame rate, you don't really notice it. You're only using the bit afterwards, and because of the way I hit the camera, it created a perfect shape around the main actor's face, and that was all fluke. And it was like, and everyone's like, "How did you do that shot? It's amazing." And I should just say we planned it, and it was, it's perfect, but mistake.
yeah.
And now that's what I love about filmmaking. You don't expect sometimes what you don't expect turns out to be the best thing. That
Yeah.
doesn't answer your question, does it? I can't remember what we
No,
just went on some mad
I
diatribe.
love this is what I love about independent filmmaking. And we used to get this in Hollywood filmmaking as well, right? It doesn't seem to exist
No.
anymore. Whereas now, the stories you get about now is, oh, geez, those digital artists got crunched hard and all got divorced and have miserable lives and lost a couple of teeth, didn't they? Like, whereas, you go back to horror genre movies in particular, look at the making of what is a huge, an Oscar-winning movie. Look at The Exorcist and look at the stories of like William Friedkin, like basically breaking the law by saying,
Yeah,
"Fuck it, let's just film it and we'll
that's
apologize
why.
later."
That's one of my favorite horrors, and that the air of the sort of tone of that film is horrific because they were treated horrifically. The actors were petrified.
Yeah,
That's why. I think that's a good thing. You don't need to
I
do
said,
that.
don't do that to our actors, Phil.
yeah.
Please
No,
don't.
no, no.
Be nice to
But
your
like you
actors or break
got,
the law.
yeah.
No, but it's
I think is it the child actor? She still has back issues now or something from that shoot. The way she was thrown around, it like did something
Yeah.
dislocated, did something.
Injuring people aside, I love to hear these stories of how happy accidents happen or how you make things work when when things don't exactly go according to plan. And it is, for me now, uniquely a feature of independent filmmaking. Because if you're working on a Hollywood budget, you'd be like, oh, the producer's going to have to go and apologize to the studio, aren't they? Because we've
Yeah.
just gone, we have to do that again. Sorry. Or we've
Well,
insured
yeah,
ourselves for this type of thing. So this is what's happened. Or don't worry, we've got an extra million in the bank for just this
yeah.
type of thing.
Well, I think constraints make you more creative. So the more constraints you have, actually, if we had all the money in the world to make this, it wouldn't be as good. It just wouldn't have been
No.
because of the constraints and the camaraderie on set. And I mean, we did pay everyone, but not obviously the normal rates. But we paid, like, I'll probably get in trouble saying that, but we paid them short film rates. And but so there was money, but the it was the constraints of what we could do and the time we had to do it in, and also you've only got one take of this, and because they are not going to do overtime, they're going to go at this time, and it's but also the passion, like from the people like the amazing SFX person Eve Pashley and like Dean cinematographer was amazing on the shoot. Like there's a shot of a chess piece that falls in slow motion, which is actually quite dramatic and poignant. And we nearly didn't get that. I was like, because people were like literally taking down the lights. It's the last day of shoot, and he said, just leave that light there. And it's a high speed camera, so you need lots of light. And he got the shot and it worked and it was like one of the most important shots in the whole film and he pushed for it. At that point I was just like, oh my gosh, it's just a chest shot, we'll be fine. But he's the one. It's amazing how it's always teamwork. I can't, in fact, the only thing I've done has been a hindrance in many ways to the making of it. But yeah, the people were amazing. And I think you're right. I think independent cinema and especially horror is look at. I mean, there's a magazine I get and read about horror film production, and it's just all fun. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm sure there's some awful stories, but like it is, people have fun with it, and I think that's the key,
And I
and that
think
comes.
people like our actors, and we have to shout them out really for the fact that they put up with a hell of a lot. So we have the most amazing makeup team, the most amazing prosthetics team, SFX, like Eve and her team. There was no running water in the place we filmed because the
Yeah,
council wouldn't let us have the water. It was an abandoned building, basically an abandoned school where
it's an
we
old school.
that
Yeah,
yeah, it had not long been abandoned, but we couldn't use the water because it hadn't been tested. So the actors were covered in blood, covered in glue, covered in makeup, all sorts of prosthetics for days on end, like three full days pretty much. Everyone was covered in something. Only had wet wipes. That was it.
yeah.
Never complained. And you
They
know,
were we were really lucky with it. They were like so professional and also they really embraced it. I remember one of the fantastic memories I have is so the set is a bedroom basically, and Frances Barber came in. She likes to come in early and but she wanted to be like have some peace time. So she said, "Do you mind if I actually get into the bed on the set and just have a little snooze?" So as people were coming in, she was having a little snooze in the morning. I love that, and it felt like a family thing.
it did.
That's yeah,
It
yeah, yeah. Yeah, the actors we were so lucky with our actors, and the standard of performance was we'd often get it in one take, and which made the scheduling so much easier because they got it straight away, and they were like, and then after that we'd ad lib and have more fun with it, but the first takes were always the best take, and yeah, it was, and you could tell everyone watching the monitors, you could tell there's always silence after a take, and I'd forget to call cut because it's just like, wow, that was fucking amazing. And you knew on the day that we're on a winner. It was like that they had all those elements come together, which is really hard because film has so many elements, and get them all together in one and make it work is always a miracle, I think.
And none of them knew each other apart from Frank
Yeah.
and Shane. So Frank, who plays the doctor, and Shane, who plays Mike, the landscape gardener with the chainsaw, they knew each other. They've known each other for 20 years. They met on the set of The Wind That Shakes the Barley, the Ken Loach film back in
Okay,
like
wow.
2005. They've been friends ever since. And Frank actually brought Shane into the production because we cast Frank first. He was the first person we cast. So that connection was already there. But the other actors didn't know each other. They'd never met each other before. And it was lovely seeing everybody bond and the chemistry on screen was so good. So we really got lucky with this
You can
cast.
tell when it
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah.
Again, I'm comparing, anyone will think I'm biased towards independent and genre cinema. Again, you see films that come out now, like huge, shiny Amazon infinite budget productions, and it's like, there's no chemistry here. Like it feels like you two are sitting in trailers and you don't speak when the cameras aren't rolling.
Yeah.
You know, there's been huge films, even in my beloved horror genre, where I'm like, this doesn't work. You guys,
Yeah,
like, I certainly like, especially when there's meant to be such that depth of relationship between two characters, and it's like, I don't believe you're a couple, but you really get the sense of this. They, there is that love, and there's the shared history at very least. But then, as we talked about as well, they bring across the resentment that can
yeah.
grow from those things as
I
well.
mean, they were amazing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, and with Francis especially, and Murray. There's that first scene we shot. We basically shot in linear order just because budget, and so we started at the beginning. And the first scene was just them together as a couple, and it was it was that first take. You're like, well, I said it earlier, but like you immediately went, okay, this is going to work now. I get it. Because not
Yeah.
you do all this prep and everything, you still don't know until you're in the room shooting and take one. Like I've been in shoots where you're like, take one, okay, this is not going to work. So you're gonna you're gonna find that way to make this work. But like it was just yeah, it was such a buzz, and also I learned so much from the actors as well. Because I've done a lot of work with actors a lot, but they always have people like to work in different ways, and especially with I got a really over the time I got a really good bond with Frances, and she's had so much experience, and I learned so much from her. So for me, it was a big growing thing as well. So, I'm getting emotional now, but it
Yeah,
was
you,
it was amazing. It was
you
amazing.
you learn so much from the people you get
Yeah,
lucky enough to work with. You mentioned Francis and Murray, your male lead there as
yeah,
well. Really interested. Like I will own my ridiculous mistake I was making for a second when Murray was first on screen. You have those close-ups when they're having that chess match and he's going through. For a moment, I was like, is that renowned impressionist and comedian Alistair Beckett King on screen that has made himself look like an older man? But no, 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 don't be ridiculous. It is actually someone of the appropriate age, but
yeah,
brilliant. Like I loved the relationship that came across. I loved the delivery, and like even outside of the high drama moments, just in that opening scene, which the opening couple of minutes of the film, you get that relationship and the belligerence that you're allowed to have when you're older, and those difficulties. Like you set up, I think the way their relationship is perfectly in those opening scenes. So
yeah.
Eliza, when you were writing this, you mentioned that you had a horror script and you've gone through these shorts over time. Like, do you work on a lot of these like horror shorts as well as expanding this? Have you got others in the tank that you're inspired to get out there?
Oh, definitely. I've been talking to Phil about them. We've definitely got a few other, I think it's about two or three other horror shorts and a couple of other horror features. I think personally, what I really love from a writing perspective, and I think it's probably spending so much time in Ireland, sitting in cafes or Irish pubs or wandering about and seeing couples and watching them. I'm always a bit of a weird people observer. I'm properly really weird and nosy. I love watching what people are up to. So you kind of get a lot of ideas for horror, oddly, through human interactions. So one I'm working on at the minute, I can't say too much about it, but it does involve the London Tube because I've just sat on the tube and watched interactions between people. And again, in watching this, having this couple, so Murray and Francis, what they brought to the screen, I've seen so many couples like that in Ireland. So yeah, I'm trying to bring a few horrors that are quite grounded, but end up getting a bit mad. But they're very grounded in human relationships. That's what I think interests me the most. Men and women,
Yeah.
and the way they interact always interests me.
And I think, but that I think that's key. I think that's why I love it, Eliza. You're writing because you always have a heart to it. There's a human
Oh,
heart, a human story, and but
even though I
that's
have
key.
no heart and I'm evil. Yeah, I love that. The writing has it.
Yeah, because if
You
it's
emulate
just
it very
horror
well.
and it's just scaring people, I don't, and then it's fine. It's fun, but actually to really resonate and last, it needs heart. That like that film you mentioning ages before we started recording about it's only got 2 stars that you love. I forgot what you said it was
Oh,
called.
Sleepaway Camp. It's big
Yeah,
Oh,
anniversary this
I
year. Get
bet
and
I haven't
watch it.
seen it, but I bet it's got heart, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
no, you know
No?
what? Like the creator, the director of Sleepaway Camp wanted to make a slasher movie. There's some bizarrity in it, but the heart of that really comes from he was able to make that film with the inheritance from his mother who'd recently passed away, and it begins. The film is dedicated to her. He
There you
describes
go.
as a
The
doer,
heart. Yeah, yeah,
and he
yeah,
was
yeah.
inspired to do that by that. I mean, there is a scene where a policeman comes back later on and has shaved his mustache off between shoots, so has to have a paper one stuck to his top lip. In a less expensive version that they would replicate with for millions for Henry Cavill in a Justice League movie, but there are some moments in that film. Yeah, I think you have to have passion to make any type of thing that's going to
But it's the
resonate with people.
mistakes because humans are imperfect. Perfect films don't resonate, in my opinion. Like a very flashy Hollywood film doesn't. It might do very well as a piece of entertainment, but it doesn't resonate completely emotionally because it's too perfect. And I
Yeah.
think the big issue, we're talking, like AI is becoming a big thing. AI is a great tool, and I'm sure people we're gonna all use it at some point, and we'll have to. But at the end, if it's not a human, if they're not human mistakes in it, it doesn't feel human. It's like, I always go back to. So it's Jason the Argonauts with the skeletons, the stop frame
Yeah,
skeletons.
like Ray
Oh,
Harryhausen
Yeah, yeah,
stop
yeah, yeah,
motion
yeah.
skeletons.
Yeah, and it's like they're imperfect, but they're more scary and real than a CGI skeleton, in my
it's like
opinion.
American Werewolf in London is still one of my all-time favorite films, and
Yeah,
obviously that we all know that the werewolf sequence is, one of the most referenced in movie history. But when you actually look at the puppetry, when you look at things, there are so many imperfections in there, so much kind of like that, now we're seeing it in close-up HD mode. It's not entirely perfect, but that's what makes it so perfect,
Yeah.
particularly from that year. And that's got heart too.
Yeah.
That's a film with a lot of
So
heart.
I want to see something that is made, that is crafted. I don't need perfection. I don't need speed, and to a degree. And if someone goes, but I was able to generate this in minutes with a prompt, I was like, "Oh, wow, then I guess. Uh, you know, it, the irony is not lost on me to quote another multi-million dollar corporation in deriding what's being able to be generated by AI. But as that fella from The Incredibles said, when everybody's super, no one is. Like I
yeah,
want,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I want to look at when people are being exceptional. The wonderful thing about AI, yes, there are things that it can there are things that it can generate. As I talk professionally, though, when I'm doing my regular job, can't make you interesting, can't make you funny,
No,
can't it can't you cannot make something mediocre exceptional with these tools. It cannot make
no.
something mundane brilliant. You have to have something,
Yeah, you
regardless
gotta.
of the tools
Yeah,
that you
yeah, yeah,
use.
yeah.
You
It's a
have to have
tool,
had
right?
something on its own to have created something from it.
Yeah,
You've seen
that's
Scream
what I. Yeah,
7, I'm guessing you have.
Have
I'm
I
guessing
seen what, sorry?
Scream 7.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are. I actually really enjoyed it, but the one thing I noticed is that me and a group of friends watched the original Scream right before, then went to go and watch Scream 7. And the first thing you see is the CGI in Scream 7. So when I won't go into too much detail if people haven't seen it, but people might get shot in the face and things like that. And you see the close up and you can tell straight away that's computer generated. It doesn't look real. But yet when you go back to the original Scream, everything that was done that was very much hands-on practical effects, it looks real. It looks authentic, even if it's not perfect, even if the blood isn't the right color or, things look a bit like corn syrup. It looks far more authentic than what they've done in Scream 7.
And there's a,
That's
yeah,
like,
yeah, when these things are tangible, when you can touch these things, and coming back to your one, because I know these things is yes, I know that someone's arm wasn't really cut off. That is something that I can do. But if everything goes okay in my life, I'm not going to see a real person with their arm cut off. That's not going to be something I ever experience for real. So I think if you got something that I can feel has tangibility and weight to it, and I can understand
yeah,
exists in the space, it doesn't matter to me whether it is well, that's exactly how it would look if someone's if
yeah.
someone's arm was sawed off. I want it to feel like it is feasibly real and not, oh well, this was generated out of camera later on. People do some wonderful things with
Well, I think it's a tool,
computers,
right?
but
It's a tool. I think you've got to. I mean, I find it interesting. So if you watch something with terrible sound, you'll hate it no matter how visually beautiful it is. Whereas if it's a crappy visual but a great sound, it doesn't bother you. So I think there's something that says a lot to me about what humans put up with. we want yeah, and the AI, I mean, like, yeah, I think. I mean, what's interesting, AI is being used. I mean, my background's post-production. So, for example, in grading and color, a colorist will use AI without, in the background, it's being used to help, fix a scene or whatever, fix the color. There's stuff, and I think where it goes wrong, like there are going to be, I mean, there already are, right? AI complete features that are all AI, but if it had someone actually written a script, but it's visualized AI, I don't, it's going to be an interesting world of hybrids
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
in films, so say for example, like I don't know, I don't know, we had a different horror film, but then we needed a scene of 1,000 people on the beach as zombies. With AI, now we could do that relatively cheaply, and it might be okay for a second or two, but as long as we got actual real zombies we've made in close up, you know what I mean? So there will be,
There's that sliding scale, isn't it? And I think
yeah,
that there's a very different thing with, oh shit, coffee cup got into that scene of Game of Thrones. Can AI take that out pixel by pixel and what would be a painstakingly horrible job?
yeah,
Sure, I don't care about that. Can it ever go on the dishes after it's done? Yeah,
yeah.
great. But what I'm not as a film fan, what I'm not particularly interested in is, you know what, AI wrote this. I mean, okay.
That'd be shit.
Yeah.
That'd
AI
be
can watch it
shit.
for me as well.
And it's what you
Yeah,
also don't see that I think can be the most interesting. So I was
yeah.
rewatching Don't Look Now recently, and it was always one of
Mm,
my favorite films when I was younger. And for the majority of the movie, you don't see the threat. You don't actually see what the threat
much
is.
scarier.
It's much scarier. They didn't need CGI, obviously, for that movie, obviously in the 70s anyway, but you didn't need even prosthetics or anything. You just needed that sense of dread. And I think holding that all the way through a film can be so much more effective than visuals, to be honest, a lot of the time.
The principle of how
Yeah,
Jaws, well,
yeah,
arguably one of the
yeah,
Yeah,
greatest horror films,
yeah.
works, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
that's the monster. We imagine our imagination is way stronger than any CGI
It is.
or visual
It
It's
effects.
really
why it's why books continue to be
Yeah, yeah,
incredibly popular, right? It's why Stephen King is able to, you know, be bestseller year after year after year. It's probably why, when you say bestseller in this genre, in brackets, not counting anything that Stephen King wrote. Like it's because your imagination is still such an
Do you
incredibly powerful
like
tool.
running this podcast? What are you seeing in the horror space in terms of the genre space? More independent films coming out, or because it's
I
tough
think
out
we
there.
I think we engage with a lot of independent films just
Yeah,
because of the nature of the places we go and the fact that we
yeah,
do a lot
yeah,
of film festivals and things like that. I think there is certainly what I have enjoyed the most, and I will always rock up for a franchise that I am a fan of. We did Scream 7 a couple of weeks ago. This week's episode, at time of us recording this, we did our first full episode on a video game and talked about the ninth
yeah,
Resident Evil mainline game, which is obviously an entirely computer generated production. Um, yeah, and there is a lot of room, I think, and a lot of love still for franchise. But the things I have been most excited by, the things that have stuck with me, that I recommend to other people most readily, um, I haven't had to rush out and see and say to anyone who I work with or who doesn't engage with horror films every day, or have you seen the new Scream yet? Because I imagine their marketing will have got to them if they're interested, 7 movies
yeah,
in, and they know about it. What I do talk to people about over the last few years are things like look at things like Bring Her Back, from the Philippi brothers, and Talk to Me before that. Fresh idea, incredibly focused on the craft of filmmaking, truly disturbing cinema. People like Stuart Spark over at Dark Rift Horror doing films like How to Kill Monsters, horror comedy, schlocky, like a real love for practical effects and just mad storytelling. And I love it. One of my favorite films I've seen in years. Look at The Substance.
yeah.
You know,
Incredible. Yeah.
yeah,
Original, true
yeah.
original. And again, a
Original
woman
ideas.
story, which I personally love. But yeah.
And I
Original
think they
ideas.
last financially. I think. I mean, because we are talking to lots of different people about how we're going to develop our feature from the short. And it's interesting what people are saying. Well, the script needs to have this in the first couple of pages. It needs to, it needs to be a water cooler moment. It's all these things like that. And
Yeah.
there's less and less sales. And even though horror is doing well as a genre, it's still, it's a difficult space. I mean, the cheaper you can make it, the better, more like you're going to make money back on it, which means you'll make another film. But it is it's difficult. It's difficult, and
Yeah.
people less people are going to the cinema, and it's like, how do you recoup that?
Yeah, it is
That
tricky,
costs
particularly
money.
when you need the access and the funding to make a film, right?
Yeah,
Which also means you are, and by nature, I'm not saying this is the wrong thing, but as soon as someone is giving you some of the money for your project, then they, by rights, have a say to how
yeah,
it's going.
yeah, yeah,
And then
Yeah.
you do get the, hey, you must show thing. And like, I get it. If you're negotiating this and discussing it with your investors and your producers,
yeah.
it does mean that it's a conversation, not an edict that you can say, no, think about Jaws and how little they show this, or, you know, do I care about universal accessibility for this message that everyone is going to understand what I'm saying in the first instance? There are concessions that you always have to make as more parties come
Well, yeah, but
into this,
also I
right?
think as a filmmaker, you got to stick to your creative. You want to tell the story you got to tell, but also you got to know you got to reach the audience you need to reach, and that
Yeah.
does take. You got to have some commercial sense to it as well, because it's otherwise you won't make another film. I think you've
Yeah.
got to, yeah, unless you got loads of money and you can just, unless you do a different model. But it's a really difficult, and it is so slow. It is
Yeah.
these projects, we do with our feature, it'd be very lucky if we even get into production in a year or two. You know what I mean? Like by the time you raise money and all this kind of
So
stuff,
much
and
work to do.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
get
Yeah.
actors attached.
Yeah.
But you love it. I mean, you do it for a reason because. Um, yeah,
but
it's
you got to get through and jump through all those hoops. Well, we'll be there
yeah,
for it every
yeah,
step of the way. Final point on this. Look at the. We wanted one more example. One of the things I really loved. Most of the reviews will tell you that Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride is a Marmite film because there are some people
yeah.
that love loads about it and there are some people that don't. That it completely bounces off them. For us as reviewers, and my comments on it last week when we looked at it were, do I agree with every decision that's in the film? Does everything work for me perfectly as intended? Maybe, maybe not. But what I can appreciate is that it was a product of someone made a decision and they chose that's what they
Yes.
wanted.
Yeah,
It
yeah, yeah, yeah.
wasn't
Okay.
designed by committee, it was designed
Yeah,
by, you can see when the creative team have
yeah,
had the final say. And I know that that to a degree comes with the size, the size of your star and the name that you are as and your track record that allow you to have that level of creative clout that
yeah.
comes in there. But I love to see it when you get to see those decisions
And you're
being
not gonna, and it's better to be Marmite than something bland, isn't it?
yeah.
That's true.
Um,
But it's also good to find, I mean, I've been trying to go back for writing the hand to hold feature. I've been going back to other horrors, mostly from Europe, actually, not American, not the big genre franchise kind of things. And I've been finding old horrors that I either watched when I was younger or I've never seen. Like if you've ever seen Little Otik, I don't know if you've seen that one. It
Oh,
was
I
a Czech.
haven't. Straight on the watch list.
It's a really good one from the early 2000s, and it's about a woman who can't have a baby. So she finds a log. She's literally just walking through the forest, finds a log, takes it home, and starts treating it like a baby. And eventually it grows and becomes monstrous. So it's stories like that. And then I went back to the best probably relationship movie in horror, Possession, Isabella Gianni and
Mhm.
Sam Neill's Possession. So watching things like that, I think you still can make a mainstream genre busting film by being influenced by these other sort of crazy mythological or
yeah.
kind of strange films. I think we still need more of that. But I think it can inspire these films. I think I haven't seen The Bride yet, but from everything I've heard, I know that it is very Marmite, but it does sound quite original,
Yeah,
which
I
I
think there's a lot to recommend it for. Like you
yeah,
can see that style. And as we come full circle here as well, I think the other piece to remember is that films, especially genre films, they need time to find their audience. They need time to
Yeah.
grow legs. Again, we'll go back into history. The Thing, when it came out, wasn't well received. Was not well received. It came out just on the heels of ET. They're like, excuse me, aliens are nice actually. What the fuck are you doing with this horrible The Thing? Um, Now I think widely accepted as one of the best in the genre, right? You do a top whatever horror movies, it's near the top with things like
And it's our
Alien. And
influence for the body horror, the design, it was big influence in this. No short thing.
amazing. Well, Time is a harsh mistress, so I
Can I
will
just
leave.
say,
Oh,
can
carry
I
on.
say one really thing? I haven't said massive. We wouldn't have been able to do this without Greg, our producer, and Georgia, who's had a baby as well. So I just want to say big. Can I? Because we haven't mentioned them a few times, and I want to
Yeah.
mention them.
Oh
Yeah.
no, we need to mention them. They're the
They
best.
You've
were
got
in.
any other thanks you'd like, and there's still time to tell to cover a couple of last things as well. But yeah, anyone else that you'd
Yeah,
like
I
to
mean that
thank,
was
the
it
best effects
basically.
producers, the actors, the whole team,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Everyone.
amazing. Yeah, but yeah, the production were like incredible. The whole team, from the runners to to the top. So yeah, thank you.
Long may it continue, and hopefully you'll get the opportunity to work with any of them that are available when filming begins on
Exactly,
the full length piece. On that
exactly.
note, though, if people want to follow along with the story, inevitably, however you choose to fund it, whether it's a crowdfunding or a investors thing, they're going to want to be able to follow the news. So, social media is not what it used to be. Where is the best place to find both of you? And I imagine when the short becomes more widely available, where will they find it?
Well, we've got an Instagram page at the moment for A Hand to Hold, so it's at A Hand to Hold Film. Phil, yours is what's your Instagram again? I should.
Philip Clyde-Smith, just Philip Clyde-Smith, all lowercase. I mean,
You got
there'll
in
be show
early.
notes, right? There'll be show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Mine's at at Ms. Eliza Power because yeah, I couldn't get Eliza Power for some reason. A teenager in Australia has it. God damn her.
God damn you, other
God damn
Eliza
you,
Powell.
teenager. But at the moment, I think we haven't got any plans to release it online just because we're just early days in the festival circuit and there's a lot coming up, thankfully, which we're
There's a
very.
website. We've got a hand
Oh,
to
we do
hold
have a
film.
website.
Yeah,
Phil did a
a hand.
website.
Yeah, a hand to hold film.com, and the trailer's on there, and there's some photos and links to the IMDb page and that kind of thing, and some
Amazing.
merch. We got a little bit of merch
Oh,
page. A
merch, yeah.
t-shirt.
Well, everyone, take my
I should be
advice.
wearing one. I should be
Follow
wearing
these things. Get in, keep your eyes on for when this becomes available that you can watch in other locations as well. But the trailer was there to whet your appetite for now. Be one of the cool gang. When this eventually comes out as a feature, you're allowed to be one of those people saying, I actually saw the short of this a couple of years ago when it was just doing the
one.
festival circuit. I am pretty on top of my horror genre stuff. That can be you. And we didn't get to cover this, but as you've been talking about how much relationships factor into this overall, I've been sort of building my own short film showcase that we could watch together. Feel free, people, as you're looking these things up. But otherwise, maybe we'll create some sort of Avengers-like team, and these guys will bring out their own thing. Combine this film with the late stages of a relationship and the almost parasitic nature this can have when you get a hand to hold. Combine these films with toxicity in a younger relationship with Alex Austin and Keir Stewart's film Kill Your Lover. Watch it. Watch these guys back to back. Maybe put in Rich Rose's Her Love about a mother enforcing or like taking revenge on a man who has like upset her daughter in a relationship as well, and put those family dynamics in there. That, lads, is a triple bill you can take to the bank. Put all those together. British short films about toxicity in relationships. You'll have yourself a very nice time. Watch these things together.
I
I'll
love.
come. Can I come to that?
Yeah, me too.
If you're in a cinema, get in touch. Let's get this happening. Um, the final question I'm going to ask you. I did promise you before we started I wouldn't ask you any hard questions. That was a lie. I've got one difficult question. I'm not going to ask you to defend the worst person you know from history, but I am going to ask each of you. You're horror filmmakers now, like it or not. This is where we are. So we're in a podcast called the Horror Hangout as well. So now, inevitably, your friends and family are going to come to you and say, horror movie night round your house. We're all coming. They're a mixed crowd, your friends and family. Don't know if you know this about them. Not all necessarily horror fans, so you've got to please a broad audience. What are you putting on for them? Who am I going to pick on first? I picked on you on a couple of things first, Eliza. So, Phil, what are you
Um,
putting on when your family are coming round? The pressure's on.
I because there's a lot of young children. Well, they should be watching this, but I can never say the full name. Babdi Book was.
The Babadook.
I can never say it. That film. I love that film. I put that on because it's a good one because it's not. well, it's really psychological, and I love what it's about. And I don't love what it's about. That sounds weird, but I just think it's a great. I just think the way they use horror to tell that story is just really cool.
Yeah. Are you
Yeah.
hoping that the kids won't watch it? Not so much that they'll be
I
scared by
think
the
you could
Babadook, but
watch
not
it.
that they'll pick up some of that young lad's behaviors.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it'd be quite good because it's not too. I mean, it is. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, no, you couldn't. No, no, don't let your kids watch it because that's against the law, isn't it? Against the law? I don't know. If it's against the law, but it's not. You shouldn't do that.
It depends
Uh,
where you live in the world. There are some countries I
yeah.
imagine it'll
Yeah.
be illegal. There you go. We've covered all bases, allegedly.
Actually.
Eliza, how about you? What are you putting on?
Oh, I think I actually mentioned this one earlier, and I'm not ashamed to mention it again because I did watch it for the first time when I was about seven. Is the 1985, I think, Fright Night. The reason being, it's funny, it's dark, it is basically a pastiche of Rear Window, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's vampires and Rear Window, and I think it's just so entertaining. And I think I've watched it about 50,000 times. Unfortunately, though, if my family come over and my friends come over to watch it, they'll be annoyed because I've made them watch it about 50,000. So it's already
Well,
been done, but I'm going to do it again.
that's just part of the magic. That's what, that's what family is about. It's about embracing tradition. Come on. That's they can get on
Exactly.
board with it. Thank you both so much for hanging out with me a
You.
bit today.
Thank you. I
Thank
loved
you
it.
to our old mate Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to those lovely folks over at Acast for hosting the show. My name is Andy Conduit Turner, and I will see you again next time. Bye, everyone.